Hi, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to Down the Rabbit Hole with ASHALA and Crystal Yardley. Mom and daughter here coming at you live. Welcome. Familiar faces from all over the world.
Thank you. I am the state. I am indeed feeling better. Today feels like probably I'm back to being me for the first day. So thank you so much, everyone, for your love and care and your well wishes. I feel like it really worked. I really felt supported.
Yeah.
So thank you, and thank you all for tuning in today, being here with us, ready to go down some rabbit holes together.
Definitely. So before we do that, let's bring it up. Screen share here. So this is really, in a way, the inaugural show, because last week we just gave a little sampler tester and we haven't got any material prepared because we're still on the tail end of Crystal was not doing so great just 2 or 3 days ago. So we didn't even know for sure that we were going to be able to do today's show, but thankfully we are. So we'll have some material prepared for next week. So this week we are very open to taking questions, and I guess the parameter of those questions is around looking at topics where, as I said last week, we can start off with a question and see where it takes us, because so often we begin with one inquiry, and as we go down the rabbit hole, more and more questions emerge, and our understanding of reality expands quite dramatically. So we're happy to take questions of sort of more general nature related to the world, related to politics, whatever you'd like to look into. And if you have personal questions, they're great for Crystal's show, the Beyond Karma show, which is on Tuesdays, and you'll be back in business.
Yes, I have missed a couple of weeks. Oh my gosh, I can't even believe it. And I've missed all of you so much during that time. So I'm excited to be here with Mama today, and then excited to get back to bringing you guys some good news and answering some of your personal questions on Tuesday. On the Beyond Karma show. So
sounds great.
That is us there.
And I guess we'll just bring up our consultations as well. So if you're interested in booking sessions with either Crystal or myself, you can find us here on the Beyond Mystic consultation page. And there are 1 hour sessions with each of us. These sessions are recorded. We're getting such great feedback. I mean, Crystal is an extraordinary reader. We are different in our styles, but very complementary. So I highly recommend that you go and check out her offerings if you haven't already done so. And
it's been so incredible to connect with many of you, some of you that I've met at the conference already, and then some of you that are, I recognize from being in our community here. And it's an honor, and my heart is blown open every time with what comes through. So really beautiful to share in that way with all of you.
Super. So we do have a question that's emerging here. Let's have a look. If you want to bring that one up about 3-eye Atlas, Crystal, it's right down there, Virginia. Yeah. And I have to tell you all, I literally am just finished a session with a client who is a deep dive down the rabbit hole client, extraordinary woman. And I just finished a session with her. We were all over the planet, interdimensionally. We were in timeline work. I'm feeling like there's some incredible information that's ready to emerge about the nature of our reality. And that was one of her questions that she brought in, was what is going on? What's the nature of our earth-based reality? Are we in some sort of dome or bubble? Is there actually an atmosphere, and beyond, what is it like? And I think that this is actually relevant when we look at the question of Three-Eye Atlas. And what emerged in the inquiry that I did with this person is something that basically I'm already getting more and more clear on in myself. And that is the word ship came in initially. And the idea that we are on, we could call it sort of like the mothership or some kind of frequency bubble container that is a rarefied environment designed to be an experiment in deep dimensionality, like deep, let's just say deep physicality and lower level dimensionality. So in order to have an experiment in 3D, 2D, 1D, you have to create an ecosystem or an environment, and it becomes almost like this frequency bubble. And then what we observe when we look into the night sky and say, oh yeah, there's all these planets, and there is, the stars and these galaxies and different star systems, is actually more like holographic projection of a frequency perspective on the edges of this experiment. And that when we leave Earth, we don't leave in physicality, we leave energetically. So the idea that we go from one star system to another in a physical craft and crash land on Earth and stuff, I'm less inclined to believe that. I definitely was deep down those rabbit holes for decades early in my life. And now I feel more inclined to be open to seeing that we travel into other dimensions of time and space, but not necessarily in a 3D way. So I want to start this whole question of Three-Eye Atlas with that deep dive down the rabbit hole perspective, because I feel like this is important to think about when we're looking at a phenomena that appears to be coming from outer space, inner space. And what is outer space and inner space? And is there something, is outer space actually inner space?
Based on our perception bubbles?
Yeah.
You said, yeah, like you didn't actually, like you were not paying attention to what I just asked you. So stop looking at the comments. I've got the comments nailed. I've got them so sorted out. Okay, so I have a question.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
I'm listening now.
I'm curious about, so you were talking about the frequency bubble.
Correct.
Okay. And so you're saying that what we're looking at and perceive as all of these different planets and as all of these different galaxies and stuff like that, is that going to look different to each person and their perception?
Good question.
Okay.
Is it okay with you, Virginia, if we start off by prepping this inquiry with a little bit of the conversation we're having right now? Because it feels like there's more that wants to come through. On our YouTube channel, we did look at Three-Eye Atlas a couple of times, like over a month ago. I feel like what's being shown in the more recent last few days to me is that there's a lot of perspectives ready to emerge into our consciousness. And the deep dive I just did before this show is no coincidence. I've never done that much of a deep dive about this kind of topic. So okay. I think we're set up for your question, and let's see
and we've got a absolutely 100% from Virginia on
Okay.
taking this wherever we need to go.
So restate your question, Crystal, please.
Yeah. So, because I was just, trying to follow what you were speaking to.
Yes.
And when you're speaking of that these are perceptions and frequency projections, say, like so what we're seeing and what
we hadn't got as far to say where those projections are coming from. The whole bubble is a frequency experiment.
The bubble being
our Earth, what we perceive as Earth, whether it be flat or circular, spherical or toroidal. I always say my sense of Earth is it's a toroidal generator creating matter out of consciousness.
Yes.
Whatever the form looks like, I'm feeling like maybe we want to start back further on the inquiry, not necessarily get to the quick answer of what does the form look like. It's less important to me. It's more, how does it function? And if it functions as there is a holographic aspect to it, which I used to find really uncomfortable, right? If I was like, no, I don't like the idea that I'm in a living experiment and it's all a holograph. That makes me feel really upset. I feel like I'm being meddled with. And I guess what I'm sensing now is it's actually in comparison to what? Right? It's not like somewhere else there's this other thing going on. It's like maybe this is the whole game. And if the whole game is these frequency nodes of exploration around what happens if we go into deep dimension density and a lot of duality and polarization, what do we experience? And then there can be this kind of rarefied environment or frequency bubble that they were actually the first word they used when I was doing this inquiry with this person before our show here, was that it was a ship. And what that means to me, instead of thinking, oh, there's some kind of headquarters somewhere that's sending these ships out, I think the metaphor of the ship is that it moves kind of through dimensionality, but it feels solid in the fluidity of the ocean. Does that make sense? Like a ship is something that a bubble doesn't feel very solid. A ship feels like something that is solid.
The Earth ship?
Yeah.
Okay.
Earth being everything contained in our environment out to a certain point.
Okay.
So
what do we look at?
Your question was, see, we get going. Your question was, is this projection something that's designed?
Like, are we observe? Is it different for everyone based on our own personal perspective lens?
Okay. Maybe before that question, where do these projections that we see come from?
True.
Are they from
Do you want me to shuffle it all?
collective? Sure.
Nope.
Not this one.
Give her.
And the next one. Thanks. Remind me. Where do these projections of what we experience as space come from? Oh, now isn't this interesting? That
2 pages.
2 pages actually looking at each other like a mirror. This one is facing this way. This one, they're looking at each other, and yet they're both going in the same direction. It's like, it's kind of like a mirror, maybe. What do you make of those 3 cards here related to what is the projection on the screen of this, the top of this ship that we're in? Where does that projection come from?
Our heart.
Our heart, the heart of humanity?
Yeah. Like it comes from
so like it's designed.
Our essence, like because it feels like it's sort of right with 2 pages, it feels like it's something that's like newer or innocent or like fresh perspectives. It's fresh. All the time.
It's always upgrading. And that's probably why we get things like the Mandela effect. What, for those of you that don't know, the Mandela effect means that things that used to be true, where you can actually find certain versions of history and reality and so on in older texts and stuff, older textbooks and so on. And now they're no longer reality. They're not believed anymore. So that comes from, there's always renewal, and we see what we're putting out there. So the energy is put out and then the reflection comes back. So is it us that is creating that perception that we see when we look up into the heavens, what we call the heavens? Is that us?
Virginia is saying here that they've also astroplaned, always on Earth, never beyond the dome. So I agree with you, Shella. We're in a shell toroidal environment, right?
Okay, beautiful. Beautiful. Yeah. And, this is where we get into the false narratives around the space programs and so on. And what would be the big desire to break out of that shell, to get out of here? It has a lot to do with people that are under the illusion that you can steal power and conquer other places, and if it gets messy here, you can get the heck out. But to me, there is no getting out, where and the only way you leave is dimensionally. You shift into other dimensions, and at that point you are now you're in dimensional law. So whatever you've done karmically, I have to tell you this. I think it's important that I lay this out, and it's going to be a whopper for our first real big show here. But I was also seeing in this reading that I just did that what happens, what we often refer to on this planet as like, dark energy or dark portals, or, we look at sickness, disease, environmental destruction and so on, and we think, oh, the planet is unsalvageable or reclaimable. But the planet itself, for the frequency of the natural elements have such restorative power. Like they can regenerate again and again and do miraculous things that we haven't even witnessed, really. But what stays here and leaves a dark energy vortex or field is the souls that came here and tried to, like, they were in the experiment. They thought they could get power. And we know that real power, you cannot steal it. You have to develop it from within, and it only comes in a humble, authentic way. You can't gain it by conquering it, stealing it, shortcutting to it, manipulating or dominating others to have that. But what you do get here is the illusion that you have power. Mm-hmm. So they're doing all this grabbing and taking, and for a while it looks like they're succeeding, right? Their coffers are building up, they're bellies are getting fat. Like they've got what appears to be like they've hacked the game, and they're actually unstoppable. They're, and they get this massive sense of self-aggrandizement and feeling like they're gods and that they can do anything. They can break out into space and conquer different star systems, and like they just feel so invincible. But at some point, all that stealing and all that taking catches up. And when they exit the planet, all that momentum of them feeling like they had all that power is just rushing onto their exit. And then they hit the reality that they're powerless. And that was all just a game, and they're back to zero. But it's terrifying because now they have to make up for everything they stole. And it's such a huge, terrifying experience when they leave with that power dominant energy, that it creates like an aggregate.
And they're leaving in terms of like leaving this 3D
Correct.
Life plane kind of
Correct.
thing. Right.
And so you remember that book that I would love to read to you years ago, The Elephant Whisperer?
Yeah.
And it was the book about a beautiful elephant sanctuary in Africa. And in the story, he talks about the person that founded the sanctuary talks about going out into the wilder areas and meeting with these indigenous elders. And they took him out onto the land and showed him this sort of mound or outcrop of rock. And they said, do not go there. Don't ever set foot on that place. Stay away from it. And he asked why. And they said, because there is buried a dark, what they called like a sort of a dead god, but that was like an evil entity. So to me, what that is referring to is a being that left. They'd gathered all this, what they thought was power on this planet, and felt so godlike. And then they were so horrified when they left because they realized it was not true. And they were terrified of the retribution of that because they created so much suffering, that they left this huge aggregate of fear connected, grounded into the planet. And these elders, these tribal elders were saying, if you go there, you'll be, you're going to, like, people die. If they go there, they'll die within 24 hours. You can't even set foot on it because it's such an infection of that dark energy. And so this idea that we can't gain, it's false, that the idea that we can steal power, and all that we've seen with deep state dark magic is that they trick themselves into believing that they've got all this power because it looks like they do. Here in this 3D experiment, it can start to look like, well, yeah, they were able to manipulate this and manipulate that, and
checked all these boxes,
right? Like they've like fooled all this and pulled the wool over those eyes and killed all these opponents and destroyed the enemy and blasted things out of the whatever, blow things up and conquer things and steal all the gold and make other people do their work for them and so on. But when they leave, when they realize at some point they're not immortal, and when they're the terrifying moment when they face their mortality, stripped of all of that power, and now recognizing in that moment that they are not only empty, but they are now a massive void that has to be filled with all the care to repair the damage they've done. So when we leave a life like that, we are faced with the realization that we're signing up for eons of repair work. So why was this all relevant? And how does this relate to 3i Atlas?
Well, let's look how it relates to 3i Atlas.
Yeah.
We can go back to that question here.
Yeah. So what I perceive about something like 3i Atlas, I feel it's a beneficial thing. I mean, let's pull a few more cards on this. I feel like it's the brainchild of somebody that is designed to be part of a heart opening upgrade, to really get us asking questions, thinking maybe some of these thoughts, right? Like what I'm speaking about. Yep. Yet to get us really more going in a good direction, right? The Six of Wands is about going in a direction towards a victory into the great mystery, the High Priestess. And, when we talk about her being a guardian of the gate to the subconscious, it's also the gate of this earth ship. She's sort of like the guardian of the earth ship gate, which is the dimensional gate. Or, we call it a stargate, but really I think we're confusing things. We're confusing star ancestors and stargates with dimensional gates, and dimensional ancestors, which are versions of ourselves in different time and space, basically. So I just dropped a big rabbit hole discussions, right? It's to get us talking about all of this.
I think it's also to activate our our inner polarity, and our inner spiritual, our inner spiritual polarity. So sort of activating these two parts of ourselves that bring us through this gateway and into our hearts, into the really stepping into the activation of the toroidal field and connecting to it. Because with this magician here, right, it's like 3i Atlas is really activating, I think, this higher consciousness part of ourselves that was already being activated, being heightened, being brought forward. It feels like 3i Atlas has some sort of a key to get us talking about this, to get us realizing that we've actually been cultivating these tools within ourselves, that we've actually gathered all that we need. And it's kind of like the activator, he's got his wand that points upwards here, right? And his hand that points down. And it seems to be like the connection to the space reality, to that which is beyond us, that is activating these earth bodies into our higher level consciousness, and our higher level beings. It's certainly taking us in that direction. And what happens between those polarities, what happens between those poles, is the heart.
Correct.
Right? It's not just the poles, the gateway that's side to side. It's the gateway that is the above and below, and what ends up being in the center of that is all of the juicy goodness that's in the heart there.
I'm going to see if I can find the magician, or not the magician, the chariot card, because the chariot card reminds me of this phenomena where we don't move. You think of the chariot, hopefully I'll be able to find it quickly here. You think of the chariot being like a physical, like a spaceship or something, and that it moves physically, because that's what we're used to. Of course, it's going to be at the very bottom.
Tracy says, I can't remember where I heard it, but I heard 3i Atlas was going to remove the parasites of Gaia.
Oh.
Is 3i Atlas full of magnets waiting to be made? There's nothing poisonous in there, is there?
So interesting. Yeah. Well, let's start with Tracy's. And for some reason, I can't find the chariot now. So I guess I have to leave that until it shows up. So
parasites.
Removing parasites. Well, in a way, what we're talking about right now is that parasitic energy of the dark magicians that got, they got into the illusion that they had power that could be dominated, stolen, manipulated, shortcutted to. And they got pretty high on themselves in this dimension. Like they really thought they were, building castles in the sky. And they got high on the power. They got drunk on the power of it. And then what happens after you realize that that's all an illusion is a big, big hangover, right? And so that's that parasitic energy. And I think that the more the more is being revealed to us of that holographic nature of this experiment ship that we're on, the more that beings realize, oh, it's not this material thing that's an illusion. I'm only going to be able to advance in this game by true power, which can't be stolen outside of me. I have to build it and earn it internally. So like you said, Crystal, it's like turning us inward to what we have within ourselves. So, and I think that the parasitic energy, as so many of us awaken and tune inward and begin to do this work, each of us in a way has our own spiritual discipline of different tools, different beliefs, things that we will gather in our lifetime, and we'll know that we've got the right formula for ourselves because things will feel good. And it's not about getting power. This is where the whole money game has been such a trick, because that was about stealing power from somewhere else. To have all this surplus money, unless you literally are making things with your hands night and day and creating that wealth and abundance, you've taken it from somewhere. You got it, you mined it from a mine, and you probably got someone else to do the work for you. Exploitation of labor and resources is the name of the money game, really. So this shift, I think, is as so many of us are awakening to what real power is, and that how much we design that from within and have to take responsibility for that from within. The parasites are hungry, right? So the ones that want to manipulate and steal with power, it's not working very well for them anymore. Remember, we were just listening to that podcast a couple of days ago. It's just not like they're not getting as much. Their game is not working as efficiently as it used to. And so they're literally coming out of the woodwork and as they come out of the woodwork to try to keep that stealing power game going, they make themselves very obvious.
Yeah, and I feel like the more that we clear the physical and energetic parasitic aspects of ourselves out, the less we feed, those parasites of the earth, the less that we feed that, because we are being activated into having the tools to clean and clear that in ourselves, and to clean and clear our own shadow or our own mirror of the parasitic aspects that are in ourselves. Which in turn feeds their parasites. It feeds
their parasitic energy. Yeah, it totally does. So it's all happening at the same time. And it's kind of like when I read that whole series of the Anastasia books, the Ringing Cedar series, and people get hung up on, they're like, well, does she exist or not? Like, is there this hermit out in the wilderness in Siberia? And is she the one that, because I don't want to read it if it's just some fakery. And it's like, I'm going, okay, I'm reading it. The frequency is amazing.
Mhm.
The messages are phenomenal.
Mhm.
I don't care if she's out there or not. Like, I'm like, wherever this came from, it's good.
There's a certain amount of the frequency of that sort of belief, right? And that inspiration in self activating even the knowledge of that makes it real to a certain
Correct.
extent, right?
You know, we're going to be able to,
and the tools with which you gather.
Absolutely. We're going to be able to know, is it right for us? Because it feels in that very grounded, heart-centered way,
Mhm.
right? It feels, and in that very innocent
Mhm.
way, it feels like, well, this is useful to me. This is helpful to me. I don't have to go out and be right about this. I don't have to prove it beyond a shadow of a doubt and know that it's 100% accurately as it's described. There's a hermit in the wilderness, and that's where all this information is coming from. I'm saying, you know, it's an incredible story. There's great wisdom in it. And I trust my heart to know what great wisdom looks, sounds, and feels like.
Mm-hmm.
And so same kind of thing, you know, 3i Atlas, I'm like, if it's having the effect of doing all of this, I feel like whoever or whatever has concocted this, whether it be future versions of ourselves that are coming in and hacking in and like putting these images into our hologram, I'm okay with that.
This person says, check out Honey's last video. She covers 3i Atlas. They are upgrading us immensely, but don't want to blow us up in essence. We're here to remember our 5D capabilities. Fear is dark construct.
And who are they? They are us. They are us in other dimensional time and space.
Mm-hmm.
Future, past, ancient ancestors from the golden age, future descendants from the golden ages, from the high civilizations, from antiquity, and future high civilizations.
Which brings us back to this. 3i Atlas remembered what Werner Braun said and Carol Rosen said, the last card that they'll play is the alien card.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Which is, you know, that what is alien to us is outside of this dimensional time and space. And this is another thing I have to tell you all, that time travel has come into so many readings in the last 2 weeks. So I feel like this is very connected. 3i Atlas is very connected to the stories that are emerging right now and how we're all getting so smart in a way, putting all these pieces together and going, wait a minute, this is similar to that, it's similar to that, it's similar to that. And as we line up all these pieces, you know, you're just going to get it solved, and then there's going to be more pieces, and it's going to get bigger, and it's going to get more interesting and more complex. But for now, and I remember back in the day when I was first learning about, you know, other star systems and the Palladians and so on, and they were saying, you know, we can't explain it to you the way it actually is, because you first of all want to understand it, and like Honey says, secondly, it'll just blow you up. Meaning it's too much for us to jump, like it'll make us crazy, because it's too far for us to go in one giant leap. Right? We need, like, that's what this guy is. He's like little steps. It's baby steps.
Yeah, and so are the pages, right? It's coming at it from like a lot more of like an innocent, open possibilities type of vantage point here. And I'm curious, they were also asking for us to pull a couple of cards on parasites and the parasitic energy. Well, let's add it to that. Let's add it to that, and let's look at tying this in with you know, what we need to know about parasites, parasitic energy, and how the potentiality of 3i Atlas and this world beyond us ties into that.
You make the cards bigger.
I certainly will.
Make the cards bigger. Speaking of magic, right? Like, I mean, if we were to like teleport in time dimension from, like, say 30 years ago to now, we'd be like, you
believe they're talking about that stuff?
But they'd be like, what'd she just do? What Crystal just do with her hands? Oh my God, she moved something and then the whole thing. What did she do? She's learned how to make sparks come out. Crystal, you're magic.
I told you I was magic. I told you.
Like, honestly, would we not be, we'd be seeing these, oh my God, look, we're on there. The television screen, right?
We'd be chirping for sure. We'd be thinking, oh, that's a movie.
We'd be thinking we're in a hologram.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, look.
There's the chariot. Came out after all.
Okay.
Okay.
So, the parasites. Huh. Okay. Ready for a rabbit hole, people? The parasites, I feel like what I'm hearing about 8,000 years ago, the parasitic energy came in as a result of first of all, we were limited, or I don't want to say dumbed down, we were kind of shut down. And yeah, almost getting, this is interesting because this is Atlantean post Atlantis, right? So Atlantis was another one of those times where we got really ahead of ourselves with what we thought we could do with our minds and our technology and so on. And then that hit a wall and it was catastrophic, both physically, but more importantly, mentally and emotionally. We came out of like Atlantis with a massive headache, and we literally shut parts of our brain off post Atlantis because we were brain damaged. We came out of Atlantis brain damaged, is what I've never said that or heard that before, but that's what I'm getting. We came out damaged. You know, when you look at they talk about the junk DNA and all of this, and they say, you know, Anunnaki manipulation, blah, 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 blah. It feels like it was as a result of exactly what I was speaking about earlier. We were on this trajectory and we thought we were unstoppable. And then we hit the wall of the reality of what this Earth ship experiment is. And that put us in the 8th sphere. It made us really, really susceptible to the 8th sphere, which is trickery, right? So the 8th sphere is like, okay, so what happens? Just let's take a kind of comical story from human experience. You know, you're like a teenager, you go out partying, you go on a drunken whatever, you get into a car accident or a fight or something, then you wake up the next day, you got a hangover, a headache, and you got to like sit in a dark room with your eyes shut and everything. And then, you know, in the meantime, the whole scenario has been changed. And when you come out, you're in a completely different reality. You're in a completely different world. And you've kind of reset yourself to be less than you were before. You've lost some brain cells and you may have had a brain injury because of your hubris in a different time. And you don't ever kind of come out of that. You never recover from that.
So what does that have to do with parasites?
What it has to do is this was the beginning of setting us up for parasites, because we're no longer fully functioning beings. We're stunted. We're disabled.
Yeah.
We are not our full frequency. So post-Atlantis trauma, which was more mental than anything, like the mental effect. Yeah, people, there was earthquakes and floods and people died and all of that. And that was frightening and emotionally very disturbing and traumatizing. But there was a mental breakdown that happened.
So
this is mental health crisis 101. And we never, and then that set us up to be programmable, which is this guy. And then in comes programmed religion. It creates a power vacuum, right? Because if all of our power has been disabled, there's a huge vacuum there. And when you have a power vacuum, parasites move in. And so then it was like doctrines. Okay, we'll save you. We'll direct you. We just follow us. Just listen to this. Just take this pill. Just do this thing. And then we become more dependent on that. Right? And we're actually all armored up after that. And life becomes a battle. And free will is under, house arrest. And then, you see, this was the card I was waiting for, because what people think often with the Chariot, well, come on, let's just get those whip cracking and get those Sphinx or horses or whatever up off their rumps and get them running. It doesn't. This Chariot is the spiritual. It's number 7, the spirit number. It doesn't move with physical brute force. It doesn't move with power, dominant manipulation. It moves with perfect frequency. 7. What is the Hertz? 77.7. Perfection, the frequency of perfection. When everything aligns up, then it magically moves. So the Chariot is, you only move out of this dimension properly when you are in spiritual alignment, attuned within yourself, when you're in integrity with yourself.
So that brings up this here. I cleanse from parasites one way or another every day, but impossible to be 100% free of my own accord. I need help from higher powers. So how can we help ourselves?
Well, as we recognize, and so I want to suggest and encourage the possibility that just hearing this information has started to change your frequency, and you may find it easier. The parasites will be less comfortable in your frequency after this conversation, after hearing this news.
Yeah, Tracy says the good feeling frequency freaks out the bad energy.
It just doesn't, they just don't match up. And that's what I talk with in, everything when I've been teaching tarot and intuition all over the years. It's people are afraid of communicating with spirits because they don't want to call in bad frequency, but your frequency is a match for the quality of information that comes through. It doesn't mean just nice things, unicorns and rainbows and fluffy clouds come through. What it means is its frequency that's already rarefied and purified. So the information that you receive is clear and not power dominant, egotistical, manipulated. It's clear.
So what about this then as well? Lupo said, can you please read if ascension symptoms are actually real? So I'm curious about how parasites, because this is becomes such a prevalent topic for a lot of us as well, right? And it seems to be something that goes kind of hand in hand with what's coming up along with our ascension symptoms that are coming up at the same time. And I feel like they really play to each other in that way, and they're sort of interwoven.
Definitely. And I mean, it's interesting if you wanted to speak even for a second about your experience on Monday with where something can happen like that, with sort of like a symptom that comes out of the blue and then disappears again.
Yeah.
And there's no
what is that about?
Yeah. Lupo is saying, are they actually real? Let's put that question up. I mean, it certainly feels real when you're having it.
Well, and it's is that an ascension symptom or not? Right? Okay, so the reason why I had to cancel Tuesday's show was, Sunday I was feeling much better. And Sunday night, I woke up to go to the washroom. And when I got up and I opened my eyes, I couldn't see properly. I had sort of like tunnel vision, like it was all dark around the outsides, and there was like all these sort of like swirly wobbly bits on the outside, and I was like, oh my gosh, like
Never had anything like that before.
what did
Never,
I do? You know, I thought maybe I took too much ivermectin or something. Like I was like, I had just kind of like taken the rest of the bottle before I went to bed.
Little
like,
drop.
Little bit. You know, it wasn't like a huge amount, but I was like, oh yeah, you know, I had to finish this off, really kick this virus in the butt, you know, and I was like, oh no. What did I do? But
we're laughing now. We were not laughing.
We were not laughing. So I was like, okay, so I'll just come back to bed and see see what happens, right? And I go back to bed and wake up in the morning and I still can't see properly. Now, I've never gotten migraines before. I see, you know, that someone said it's called a blinding migraine. You know, I've never had migraines. I've never had headaches. I've never had, you know, this is, some people also said there's something like a kaleidoscope migraine. It's just never happened to me before. And I'm not, yeah, it runs in my family and it's scary the first time. Perimenopause symptoms are blinding migraines. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, right. And I mean, it's absolutely possible.
By the way, you're all giving a better diagnosis than we got after sitting for 8 hours in emergency, in the emergency room. You're giving us better intel than the doctor in the emergency room did.
Right. Okay. So Tracy here says that's Schumann resonance. Gaia is waking up like crazy. Yeah, I've had the sight thing. Literally went outside at 3 a.m. barefoot on the ground, tons of water and gone. Right.
Yeah. And this, I mean, you can probably say with strong conviction, Crystal, you've watched me through the years go through so many phenomena, haven't you? Mm-hmm. Like, I mean, I don't even want to count, and it's horrible to even remember them all. There's been so many. I've ended up in emergencies so many times over things that literally were happening and were actually identifiably happening, even with whatever, you know, the test that they do initially, but disappeared, just disappeared, came, went through me and left, and unexplained. So often happens.
So let's you know, we have 7 minutes to go down
the rabbit
little
hole.
Rabbit hole.
We'll have to be little rabbits
in the hole. And let's look at this ascension symptoms. And okay. I know that there's people that had other questions. You know, part of the parcel here is that when we go down a rabbit hole, we might only get one question covered, and that might lead to 5 other questions that. Come on.
I was gonna let you shuffle.
Mom, you're such a piglet.
Okay, I'm gonna let you shuffle. I'm not a piglet, I'm a rabbit.
Okay. I'm shuffling.
See, we're a little bit silly.
Symptoms.
But it's fun.
We're a whole lot of silly.
And I explained last week, if you didn't hear, that we can be kind of not mean. We're certainly not mean to each other, well, most of the time, but it can look like our banter can get pretty spicy sometimes. And people are like, are you guys mad at each other? We're like, no.
Right, I called you a piglet. I was like, what talking about? How was it spicy? Okay. Focus, concentrate,
firemen.
Ascension symptoms. What are these about? Are they real? There we go. I'll put my magic on it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Mm-hmm. Great questions, and I look forward to lots more. You're right, Tracy. Oh yeah, we're just barely getting going. Sometimes it gets really raucous.
Yeah, we've also been waking up in the middle of the night. Hard time falling back asleep.
I've had the most, probably, I don't know, maybe half a dozen times in my life where I've had like a month of insomnia symptoms, and I've just been I'm in about my 3rd week right now. And it is the 3 a.m. one, 3 a.m. waking up and having a hard time getting to sleep before midnight, which normally I'm a go to bed early kind of person. Okay, ascension symptoms. Well, we got Gaia. Gaia comes in right away. Goddess, Empress. The Empress is the Mother Earth, the Earth Queen, Queen of all the queens, the great goddess. Okay. The Hermit. Oh, wow. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Oh, yeah. Well, interesting. When I look at this, the Gaia and the Hermit, to me, this is old magic. Like this is earth magic, right? Like the Druid, like Merlin and the Fairy Queen or something. This feels very, very ancient earth wisdom, earth magic. So I feel like Gaia is very activated, giving birth, and this is our old soul energy that is being enlightened. So, and it's interesting that we're getting a lot of our upgrades in the nighttime.
Yeah, and it's knocking us out. Hey,
and it's knocking us out because it's so. Look at this too. I'm very drawn to
the stained glass window there.
Yes, the word I'm trying to say. I'm drawn to Well, it's like the church, right? It's the church doctrine. It's all these things that have replaced our direct divine connection to earth wisdom, earth medicine, earth magic. And that's been out of our hands, really. We've had that sort of, we've been cut off from that. Like I said earlier, the post-Atlantean hangover thing, brain damage. I've never seen it like that before, by the way, that we came out of Atlantis with a nervous breakdown and brain damage. And so, but this is the return of this incredible wisdom. And do you see how the brightness around her, she's got all those stars in her crown and that bright halo of gold around her. And then he's got the star in his lantern. So we're being, those of us that are old souls, patient wanderers through lands, uncharted territories, going down rabbit holes and so on. And there's a lot of magical energy that we're being gifted with. The golden staff in his left hand, we're being given true power. And again, as soon as you try to use true power for personal advantage or gain or dominance or manipulation or blah, 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 you lose it. It's gone.
How can we support ourselves during this time?
So interesting that there's the golden sword and the golden wand, and that sleep and rest and putting it's very interesting. Even I'm looking here at the blue, all the blueness and the gold, right? He's surrounded by blue. So I think about blue light, the artificial blue zone we're in right now. And then how this is purple. So it's peaceful. It's blue mixed with red. And then we're putting down some of this thinking and taking
some of the overstimulation
and giving ourselves lots of, I'm hearing 3 hours before bed with no blue light. That's really hard for most of us, but even if you can get 30 minutes before bed with no blue light, and then
also sun gazing. Yeah, sun gazing, star gazing.
Let's pull a few more cards on this.
Yeah.
Okay, the other thing is that it's interesting, somebody just said about parasites come from the water. What are we talking about here? Down
Who knows what we're talking about anymore?
Okay. Well, it's interesting that this is, as we are moving in a new direction with our awareness and our understanding, it's bringing up the traumas of the past, our pains, our old pains. It's kind of like when a lot of times I used to hear old timers say, now I'm one of them, oh, that arthritic knee of mine, that's where I had a ski injury when I was 20, it's like, but it's the same thing, right? This is like we have our injuries and they become the weak spots that we then are weakened in later on. So it doesn't just have to be a physical injury that you've had. It can be a psychological, a mental, and emotional, spiritual injury.
Yeah.
And those are our weak spots. They're the weak spots in the fabric. And so as the energy, as frequency is increasing, we're seeing our weak spots a lot more
absolutely
clearly.
It's bringing it up to the surface, to be ascended, to be upgraded.
Boop, boop, boop. The end result is an upgrade that's so welcome. And look at this, 2 9s. The 9, the Hermit, and the 9-year we're in, by the way, we're in the 9-year. 2025 is the number 9, which is completion, synthesize, all gathering together all the loose ends. So this is a great year that is getting close to, we're in the final quarter of it, right? This is a great year to do a lot of ascension clearing.
So, attempting to keep it light, and it's hard when everyone wants to be so damn dark all the time, right? And Tracy also says to that, right, that's the challenge. I literally stay away from negative people. My groups are getting smaller. And this is a part of it. This is a part of the synthesizing. What's happening with our ascension symptoms is that, yes, this is very real. And what is coming up for us is that it's really exhausting us, is really wiping us out. And it's really asking for us to go into rest, to heal our bodies. It also can come up in the form of grief. It also can come up in the form of old heartbreak surfacing and not even understanding why we're feeling heavy, why we're feeling miserable, why we can't stand other people. Like, what is that even about? Where is this coming from? Where we are moving through all of that so that we can then shed what is no longer serving us, which is like giving way ultimately to coming back into these ancient wisdoms, this ancient earth magic here. And that's kind of gone underground. And in this year particularly, I feel like we're all really going through a lot of these ascension, this part of the ascension symptoms, right?
And interesting, right? Like I look at this, where it's such clear sky and we're moving out of troubled water, going in a new direction towards brighter skies. But then boom, all of a sudden we hit storm clouds and a rain. And it can be so discouraging because we're like, well, I thought I was doing better, but I'm not, or things have gone downhill again. And what's wrong with me? It's the most common thing I hear in readings. What's wrong with me? What's wrong with me?
Yeah.
And again, it's that bitter dregs at the bottom, and it can look so discouraging. But really, we're so close to really the win, right? And that last mile is in a way the hardest and the most discouraging. And the final thing that I want to say before we sign off, that kind of segues into next week, what we're going to prepare for next week's show, is that in the meantime, all of nature is also going through this. It's not just us. It's the animals and the plants on this planet. They are also going through ascension symptoms. They are also going through die-offs, changes in their patterns, in their migrations, in their habits, in their everything, right? You're hearing all these stories on the news, like creatures showing up in the wrong place and they're acting differently and they're doing this, and we're just calling it whatever, all the narratives. But there's actually new, old plants, animals, earth medicine, magic, mystery, miracles. There's, in a way, a lot of what has been alive on this earth for the last several thousand years needs to change, because we're starting kind of afresh. But in a way, also, some of the ancient species will return. Ancient species of animals, ancient species of grains. And so farming, how we relate to the natural world, what we eat, how we nourish ourselves connected to Gaia, I think is something to talk about next week.
Next week.
Boom, boom, boom.
Right? Look at this here too. Tea and consciousness is great. I can't afford a reading or a machine, but there's a lot I can do based on listening in. And there is. It's true. And, we actually do have a lot of the wisdom that we require. All of the wisdom that we require within ourselves. It is so beautiful to have these tools. It is so beautiful to be able to connect with each other and share this. And at the same time, we're being pretty distracted away from actually listening to ourselves and our bodies. So listening in, to some of these deep dives and some of these shows is really beautiful. And also taking that time to rest and listen to ourselves is going to be a really powerful path forward. And taking that time out in nature to listen as well. We're saying this to ourselves too.
Of course.
All the time. Oh my goodness. So before we go, should we talk about some promotions?
Yeah. And let's minimize this guy down.
Minimize this. Let's minimize them both. How about that?
Sure.
And we're going to go here. Another reminder. Let's go back here.
She's learning. She's learning.
Yeah, I am. Okay, so another reminder to go head on to the Beyond Mystic page, and you can book consultations with us there. If you are feeling the call for some extra support, some extra deep diving, and also what a good workshop.
Yeah.
On exactly what we're talking about here on building resilience with Eileen. And I look forward to checking that one out, because we're all working at building some resilience here.
Definitely.
For sure.
Red October. Well, what day are we on? The 9th already. Gosh, almost a third of the way through the month. And you can still get 50% off the Insider Access Pass. The code IAP50. So
beauty.
Jump on over and check that out.
And
schedule.
Lastly here, coming into the schedule, what do we have tonight? Beyond the News. Yeah, coming up at 8 p.m. I'm sure that's going to be a good one. Yeah.
And then Coco tomorrow, and then you'll see me on Saturday for the Psychic Tarot Show, and Crystal will be back with you on Tuesday.
I will.
Beyond
back with you on
Karma.
Tuesday, and it's been so beautiful
to
have you all here.
It's been fun. Thank you for sharing this with us, and
thanks for rabbit holing us.
A lot of what I've perceived and learned over the years, I've learned through readings. I've learned through channeling. When I'm working with an individual, I'm working with their guidance team, and I learned so much through other people's wise guides. It's incredible. Janine says the same thing. We've learned so very much that way. So it's lovely. I can bring wisdom and information that has been channeled in readings into these deep dives down the rabbit hole, and give us lots to work with. So thank you for joining us, everybody. We look forward to seeing you here next week with your questions and some of our topics that we want to bring in as well. So have a lovely week, everyone.